The judge threw the book at him, and when Bernard Madoff's sentence was handed down this morning, onlookers in the courtroom cheered. He bilked his victims out of billions of dollars. His 150-year sentence virtually ensures he will spend the rest of his life in jail. The judge said a message had to be sent. Brian Ross was in the courtroom as Madoff was sentenced. Brian?
Well, Charlie, when Madoff walked into the courtroom this morning, there was a hush and someone shouted out, "Crook." He would hear a lot worse over the next 90 minutes. The judge said he had not received a single letter on Madoff's behalf from family or friends, and even his own lawyer called him a deeply flawed individual. Outside the courtroom, the victims of Madoff's scams demanded he be shown no mercy.
You jerk, you know? How could you possibly live with yourself?
Inside, the denunciations continued. With Madoff staring into space, 9 of his former investors told the judge their stories of ruin, some breaking down in tears as they read letters they had submitted earlier.
We lost our entire life savings.
The emotional toll that this has taken on me has been devastating.
When it was his turn to speak, Madoff offered no excuses and said, "I do not ask for forgiveness." Turning to face his victims, Madoff said, "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't help."
You can't carry on a fraud for decades and decades and ruin so many lives and then turn around and say, "Oh, I'm sorry." It rings so hollow.
Judge Denny Chin was also unimpressed. He said Madoff's crimes were extraordinarily evil, and to applause and cheers, the judge sentenced Madoff to the maximum 150 years.
He has truly earned the reputation for being the most despised American today.
The investigation of Madoff's scheme is far from over, and federal agents are focusing on his so-called inner circle. Among them, 2 key employees, Annette Bongiorno and Frank DiPascali, who were paid multi-million-dollar salaries. The firm accountant, David Freeling, already facing criminal charges, seen here emptying his tiny office. Madoff's brother Peter, who was the firm's chief compliance officer. Madoff's 2 sons, Andrew and Mark, who were directors of the company but maintained they did not know their father was a crook. And Madoff's wife of almost 50 years, Ruth, who helped keep the firm's books. She issued a statement today saying she was stunned and felt betrayed, embarrassed, and ashamed by her husband's crimes. The man who committed this horrible fraud, she said, is not the man who I have known for all these years. Ruth Madoff was not in the courtroom today to say goodbye to her husband, nor were his sons. But crime profilers say a man with Bernie's virtually sociopathic personality will likely do very well in prison, where he'll be seen as a celebrity among the criminal set. In fact, as he walked out today, I saw no tears in his eyes, and it seemed to me, Charlie, there was a distinct smirk on his face. Like that.
All right, Brian Ross reporting tonight. Thanks. And many of Madoff's victims say he stole more than money. They say he stole their peace of mind, their security, and their dreams. Today, as Brian reported, some spoke in court and many more spoke outside the courtroom, all taking some measure of satisfaction in Madoff's sentence. One of the victims, Bert Ross, says he lost $5 million. Here he is in the first person.
I was moved and pleased by the statement by the judge. He deserves a lot of credit. He truly understood what this was about. A lot more than obviously Madoff did in his statement. It's hard to imagine that somebody who could do this for decades in a calculating, premeditated way would all of a sudden have remorse. I don't mean to be cynical, but when he talked about how he originally got into this and then he dug a deeper hole, that was by choice. If he were digging a hole and at any point became repentant and wanted to dig himself out of the hole, the best way to do it would have been to stop buying yachts and jet planes and change your lifestyle so you can get that money back to people.